This is the Coach Maz Show, presented by Griffins baseball alum State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Murraysville. Like a good neighbor, State Farm agent Alex Hetrick is there. Here's Dan Flickinger and the head coach of the Seton Hill Griffins, Mark Marizaldi.
And we welcome you to the Coach Maz Show, presented by our good friend, State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Delmont. Like a good neighbor, State Farm agent Alex Hetrick is there. And the Griffins are back. It took a little long, but we'll talk about that maybe just a minute, Maz. Kind of talk about your Florida trip and how you felt the team played overall. Obviously, a great start to it. Kind of maybe a rough middle, and then a great rally to beat Florida Southern in your getaway day in the Sunshine State. Just overall, your thoughts, first of all, on the Florida trip.
Logistically, Dan, I thought it was actually a perfect trip for us. We got down there, had a practice Friday night. We had an entire week of perfect weather. Like, there was a little bit of rain. We were able to dodge it where our game times lined up with the better weather parts of the day. But we played 4 of our games at that Northeast Regional Park, which was 5 minutes from our condos, which was great, avoiding some of that Florida traffic. And then the 3 other games outside of the tournament were at Tampa and at Florida Southern, 2 really great venues and 2 Southern teams that are always very, very good. So we got to play some great competition throughout the week. And in addition to 2 JV games. So one of the purposes of going down there is to just kind of find out what kind of team we have. I know we got some games in before we went down, but it's really a discovery period for us, figuring out when you have to use that much pitching in a week. It's really helpful to figure out roles, use guys in different ways to see how your pitching staff and your bullpen line up best. It was more in terms of our team performance. I think it was a tale of two different sides there. I thought we played much better through our first 4 games of the week. And I don't know if it was fatigue, possibly. The last 3 games of the week, we were not as sharp offensively or on the mound. But, you know, I think when you come home from Florida with a winning record, you got to be at least satisfied. And against the competition that we played to come home 5-2, I think it was a successful trip. Of course, you know, when you play 7 games in 8 days, you're going to have some high points and some low points. But it was a great learning experience for us. We had a massive win against the number 1 team in the country. That created some really cool memories for us. But we learned a lot. I think our guys are very motivated. And overall, it was a good week, except for maybe the flight home that kept us in the Orlando airport. But overall, we had a tremendous following from all of our parents that were down there. I was blown away at how many parents traveled down. And, you know, I know our alumni, even though Westmoreland wasn't able to get down there, our alumni were tuned in and following a lot of the live stats. So great trip for us. We kind of hit the ground running as soon as we got back. We had a JV game yesterday, and we're right back at it with a really difficult series coming up here against Grand Valley.
Yeah, we'll talk about the other Lakers, I guess, in just a couple of minutes, Maz. But yeah, I mean, you finished the week with a win, and then, I don't know, maybe you took a little bit of an L at the airport. You guys were there for like 24 hours. Softball was actually there as well. What was that like? What was the process? I mean, you don't need to go through the whole entire thing, but what was the process like there? And it seems like every time we try to fly back, there always something hits us with the airlines.
I wish I knew, Dan. We sat in that airport staring out the window, and it was 80 degrees and sunny, right? So, like, it wasn't some weather issue. I've never seen or heard anything like it. It was pretty much chaos at the Orlando airport for about 2 days. There was so many flights canceled. The airport was jam-packed. I actually sent a tweet out how impressed I was with the probably 65 student athletes that were there from Seton Hill. It was stressful beyond description for all of us, just not knowing when we were going to get home. But they handled it incredibly well. We had to sleep in the airport, and we were even nervous about getting home. We were supposed to come home on Saturday at 4:30, didn't board the plane till about 6:30. sat on the tarmac and the runway for a while. It was nerve-wracking. And as a head coach, like my responsibility is for all 40 kids. And unfortunately, there was nothing I could do other than just kind of endure the anxiety and stress with them. But we got home. We got all our stuff. Softball lost a lot of their bags.
What I heard, yeah.
Yeah, I think they've gotten most, if not all of them back. So a temporary setback for all of us, but overall, a really good trip.
Well, next year when we all go, I'll just foot the bill for the private plane, and we won't have to worry about it, if that's all right.
Yeah, I would think by now WSN has their own private jet. And
Or
if
at least
not,
by next year. That's the goal, Maz.
yeah,
365 days from now, it's a goal is to have my own plane. So
you better
I,
get on it, man.
I can help you guys out. Kind of talk about some individual bright spots, if you will. Who kind of stood out individually, Maz, in Florida?
Well, if you look at the numbers, Matt Frazetta is probably one of the guys that stands out. I think he had a tremendous week, probably hit over 400, had a handful of doubles, hit in the middle of the order. He was very consistent throughout the week. Maybe at the end of the week, he fell victim to a little bit of fatigue, like most of our hitters did. But he's been a bright spot this entire season so far, really stepping up and winning that first base job and being a productive bat in the middle of the order. Um, we went into this season with a pretty good anticipation of what our starting rotation was going to be. You're bringing back four seniors. We went 5-2 down there, and not a single starting pitcher got a win. So that says a lot about our bullpen. We had 5 wins from 2 guys. Jack Laird had 2 wins in relief, and Evan Rossi got our Snake of the Week award by winning 3 games in relief. Christian Zilli logged a couple of saves. So I guess just speaking in general, our bullpen was a very bright spot. Our starting pitching actually was not as good as we anticipated, but fortunately we had guys like Luke Deschennes and Laird and Rossi and Zilli and all those guys really solidify the back end of the bullpen. Jack Laird and Owen Sable's defense was absolutely incredible. We're fielding the ball fairly well. If you look statistically, the majority of our errors have actually come from our pitching staff. And as anticipated, the left side of our infield, there was so many wow moments defensively down there. We played a lot of close games, as you saw. I think the first 3 games were either extra innings or 1-run ball games. So the margin for error on defense, we could not give up a free base anywhere if we wanted to stay in those games. And overall, our defense, I think, was definitely a highlight of the week too. Jack Oberdorf stood out in one game, 4 for 4, massive 7 RBI performance against Ohio Dominican. And to finish the trip, it was really interesting. We had great bench contributions. We struggled offensively in that last Florida Southern game, 1-0 until the 8th. Braden Durham had caught a lot, so he didn't start that game. He had a pinch hit home run to tie the game in the 8th. And then we went to a freshman off the bench, Gage Wheaton, to pinch hit in the 9th. He started a rally and ended up scoring the go-ahead run. So, that's what you're down there in Florida for, is to see how deep your team is and what different roles guys can fill. So a lot of highlights throughout the week.
Yeah, certainly great for the bullpen too, because I know it was a little bit of a question mark, coming into the season with losing the guys like Caden Wood and Blake Barker that you did. So nice seeing them kind of step up. Obviously, Maz, we could talk about the Florida trip even further, but let's kind of turn our attention to today and talk about the Grand Valley State Lakers. Certainly a big regional series for you guys. Kind of how did it come together in terms of scheduling?
This is a tough weekend for all of us to fill right before conference play, because every other league is already playing their conference games. So I'd sent a message out, and the Grand Valley coach had just gotten hired, so they were a little bit behind in their scheduling, and he was just looking for any games to fill their schedule, and it just kind of worked out. So, and obviously we knew it was a great opponent. It's not too bad travel for them, maybe 5-6 hours. So yeah, I think it's a win-win for both clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at them, what do you kind of see in terms of any scouting that you're able to do?
Similar to what we've seen from that program the last 5 to 10 years, very, very sound fundamentally. They have some big physical guys, both offensively and on the mound. They appear to be a team that's just, not going to beat themselves. They throw a lot of strikes, put a lot of balls in play. They do have a lot of returning players from last year's team, and that's a program that's a perennial NCAA regional team, very similar to us. So I think that you'll see two experienced, very competitive, sound, fundamental college programs going at it this weekend.
And what are you looking for from your team, Maz? What do you guys have to do to get 3 wins here and 3 9-inning games, correct?
Yeah, 3 nines. So it'll be a lot of baseball. We just need to score more runs. And that's probably like
that's a Mark Kotarski line, I think.
Yeah.
Although usually basketball score more points.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Although some
but
programs say points. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we just have to get a little bit more continuity throughout our lineup, 1 through 9. We've been relying on the top and middle of the order to be super productive. But we didn't strike out a whole lot down in Florida, but it didn't translate into a lot of on base and runs, and that's where we've thrived the last couple of years. So I think focusing on getting on base and trying to manufacture runs a little bit. And to just taking care of the baseball on the mound. As talented as we are on the bump, I think that our stuff has gotten a lot of guys out, but our lack of command has put a lot of unnecessary traffic on the bases for us. So those are probably the two things, just finding a way to be a little bit more gritty on offense and taking care of the baseball on the mound.
Looking forward to spending 27, maybe plus innings with the Griffs this weekend, Maz. Good luck. Go get win number 1 today.
Thanks, Dan. Great to have you guys here.
That is Coach Mark Marizaldi of the Seton Hill Griffins, the Coach Maz Show presented by State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Delmont. We'll have first pitch for you coming up from Seton Hill.